Welcome to WagerTalk TV. I am Kelly Stewart, joined by Dave Koken and Adam Trigger of WagerTalk.com. I may be on an island in the Pac-12 with this one. Washington State now up to 13 in some places on the WagerTalk odds screen in the Coliseum to face USC. Total 66. This is going to be kind of a tough one for me to stomach. I did give this out as my best bet on Bet On It. I think there's a look-ahead spot here for the Trojans, who have Utah on deck. And frankly, I think they've benefited from the turnover battle this year. We did kind of see some regression this last 2 weeks where they didn't cover. I think this is just too many points, Dave. So I took the Cougs. And yes, of course, I sprinkled a little bit on that money line.
You might be right. The line has gone up. At 10, I would have been on USC here. At 13, probably not. The way the line has moved, and this is something I've done for ever since I moved to Las Vegas, is watching how a line moves, whether it's a half point at a time or whether it's a jump, a full point. When it's a full point, look out. That means it's something respected coming in that's caused that line to move. And that's the way this line has moved. So that's an indicator, at least, from a betting standpoint on USC. I'm also a matchup handicapper. That's the way I really do things. I make numbers on every game, but I'm primarily a matchup guy. And while USC hasn't played great the last couple of weeks, I think this is actually a favorable matchup for them. I don't like the Washington State defense against what USC likes to do offensively. And I don't think the Cougars can match points with Caleb Williams and company. So they've priced me off the game at this point, but I have a suspicion this is going to be a pretty easy win for USC. You're right about the look ahead, okay? I mean, Utah's a bigger game, but the fact they haven't been real sharp the last 2 weeks, if they'd crushed these last two opponents, I would have said, yeah, flat spot. They didn't, though. In fact, they weren't really good against Arizona State last week. I think they are going to come focused here, and I just don't think Wazoo can stay with them for 60 minutes.
I would agree offensively that I have my concerns with Wazoo being able to match scores with USC, and that is where I do need their defense to step up, unlike they did for me against the Oregon Ducks. Adam, I know you're really high on USC. You have them to win the Pac-12 this year. Your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, Kel, so I was on Arizona State for best bet last week. I am high on USC, but I can acknowledge when a number is way too high, and I thought that was the case with Arizona State last week, and they got the money. But like Dave said, they kind of have USC didn't play great against Oregon State or Arizona State, so I think that gets them a little bit focused here. And something I like to fade typically is teams with outrageous turnover margins. Like USC right now is plus 14 turnover margin. You have to think that might come back to earth at some point. But Washington State has 2 or more turnovers in all 5 of their games this season. And I think Washington State, they're just a tad overrated to me. The Wisconsin win, I keep going back to, I was not high on Wisconsin coming into the season, so I'm not going to put as much stock into that. So I feel like Washington State comes in, couple of, win. They had the close call with Oregon, maybe even should have won that game. But the fourth quarter of that game, when they gave up 29 points, is almost like kind of what I feel like could happen to them in this game, especially if they turn it over a couple times, which they've done in every game so far. So I really am in pretty much full agreement with Dave. I think it's a much better matchup for USC. And I know a respected group that got in early and this moved up quickly. There's no question that money on USC was sharp, and I don't know if I could advise people to lay 13. I would have wanted it a little sooner than that, but the only way I could play this would be to lay the points. I think USC is a far better team, and I have this in the 14 to 17 point range. I think they get it done by 2 scores.
I want to mention something here because it's important, and I bring this up on a frequent basis, but I'll do it again because we're always getting new viewers. There are websites and supposed handicappers who will tell you, follow the sharp money. And it's terrible advice. Okay? Terrible. It's the worst advice you can give because you're not going to get the same number they did. Okay,
Right.
if you're following a sharp bet, if you got the same price or maybe within a half point, fine. If you like following a sharp money, but if you're following sharp money that came in at -10 or -11 and are now laying -13, you are giving yourself the worst of it. Anybody who publishes that information is an asshole. Okay, they don't know what they're doing, and and I'll guarantee you they're long-term losers. Do not follow that advice.
But Dave,
Dave
I
Koken.
want to I want to throw one point in though, and this is like right. I would absolutely not advise someone to follow it and take a worse number. But on a college football Saturday, when there's 100 games, if you know if you have good info and you know a group got down on USC and that's maybe the reason for the move, it might be enough to keep you off the other side. I don't think there's any problem with
No,
not
yeah,
betting Washington State. Yeah.
I'm not saying bet the other side. I'm just saying don't take a -13 when
Right.
-10 or -11 was out there. If you do that long term, you are going to lose money. I guarantee you.
Absolutely.
You might win this game,
Absolutely.
but you'll lose long term.
I love it. Dave Koken always bringing the heat. Don't be a steam chaser. That is not going to get you big time money long term. Dave nailed it as always. One of the best in the business. Thanks to Dave. Thanks to Adam. Make sure you guys head over to our Wager Talk YouTube channel and check out all of our other game videos.